Welcome to 10 Minutes in the Text. My name is Ted Doering. I'm the pastor of Narrative Church in Round Rock, Texas, and this is my first look this week at our texts for the week. So I've read most of this stuff before, but hey, I want to get into it again before we dive in for the sermon. We're in a sermon series called By Faith. We're looking at Hebrews 11 that talks about all these people of faith, but how what they've done is actually the work of God in their lives. So we're going to take some time, dive in. We're going to be Hebrews 11 and Exodus chapter 3 this morning, looking at Moses. So let's take a look. By faith, so there's our key phrase again, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw that the child was beautiful and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, now let's real quick, king's edict. Hebrew boys were to be killed. So they were not afraid of that edict. But think about it like this. They were saying, hey, we're unafraid of what you've said. It's not that the edict didn't cause them fear or anxiety. It's they stood up bravely to say, we're going to hide him and we're going to take care of him. So by faith, Moses. Now, whose faith is this? Well, that's actually connected to his parents, right? So this first by faith is his parents. Now, by faith, Moses, now this is about him, when he was grown up, refused to be called a son of the Pharaoh's daughter. All right, so he leaves royalty, right? So he steps away from this royal life that he was in and says, no, I want to be about my people. And here, let's keep going. Choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin, right? So he leaves this royalty instead to be counted as a slave like his people. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasure of Egypt. Now this is interesting, right? What? The reproach of Christ? But this is the Old Testament. How does that function? Well, you have to remember the promise has always been the same, that God will send a Savior. So Jesus, what we call the pre-incarnate Christ, before he comes as a baby, is present. And so in this moment, he doesn't want that reproach of the Savior, of God's promise, but instead, he flees that wealth to be with his people, for he was looking to the reward. Now, I like this because this connects this week with what we talked about with Abraham, right? Abraham was waiting for a city built on the foundations of God. Well, here too is this reward that's a heavenly reward. All right, by faith, he, Moses, left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king. Now, why was the king angry? He had killed someone. He lashed out in anger. For he endured as seeing him who is invisible, right? So here, let's connect here. We're connecting this idea of king with he who is invisible, so God. So throughout this, we have this juxtaposition. So I'm going to take this screen. Let's take a look. All right, so here we have, they're not afraid of who? The king, right? So they're thinking about God. Moses, growing up, he refused to be called what? A son of Pharaoh's daughter. So that royalty on earth, rather with the people of God. So here we have that juxtaposition again. So first you have the edict of the king, the promise of God. So they trust the promise of God. You have son of the Pharaoh's daughter, chooses to be with the people of God. Instead of the reproach of Christ, he focuses on that, looking towards the reward instead of the treasures of Egypt, right? So he's looking for the reward as opposed to the treasures of Egypt. And by faith, he left Egypt out of the anger of the king. So he leaves. Why? Because he doesn't look at the king, he looks at he who is invisible, God. By faith, he kept the Passover and sprinkled the blood so that the destroyer of the firstborn did not touch him. All right, so we get to that end there of that Passover moment in the 10 plagues. So let's take a look here. We're going to be looking at the burning bush in Exodus chapter 3. Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. So this is after he's fled, right? He gets to the wilderness. He meets these wanderers who trust God. So he marries a woman, the daughter of Jethro, the priest of Midian. So he's tending his flock. He led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. All right. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. Now I'm going to circle this in pink here, this angel of the Lord. Remember how I mentioned the pre-incarnate Christ? I want to go back and look and see if scholars think, is this one of those moments? He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. Right? So the bush is on fire, but it's not burning up. And Moses said, I will turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. So he sees something's going on. Then the Lord saw that he turned aside to see. God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near. Take off your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is what? Holy ground. He said, I am, this is going to be big, focus on I am, the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So all of these patriarchs have already come, right? And Moses hid his face. Why? He was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. So this is God hears. This is kind of advancing the story, but it reminds us that God is listening, that he is paying attention. I know what? So this is God. I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up to that land out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey. This is classic promised land language, right? A land flowing with milk and honey. To the place of who? The Canaanites, the Hittites and the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. So this is a land that he's promised that's already inhabited. We're going to have to take it. And now, behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me. So he's repeating, right? Repetition. This is important. The cry of, now behold, pay attention. The cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I've also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, I love this. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel? So what's this? Why me? Moses says, why me? But he said, this is God, right? This is going back up to him. But he said, but I will be with you, and this shall be a sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am, Yahweh. So that's, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am, Yahweh, has sent me to you. So here we get the name of God. We get all these things, but it's this basically, I am. Who am I? I am. So I'm excited to dive into this week. Look at how by faith, that God gives him the name, gives him the backing. By faith, Moses does these things, not of his own volition, but because God is with him. So we'd love to see you 10 a.m. Sunday morning if you're here in the Round Rock, Georgetown area. If you're somewhere else and you're looking for a good gospel-based church, we have a connection with a lot of Lutheran churches across the country. We'd love to get you connected with one of them. Hope you have a great day.